So to go with the rice, I am going to make cube steak and gravy. I'm going to make homemade brown gravy. The first thing I do is I always use my cast iron skillet, and I put a little bit of vegetable oil in the bottom of the pan. I just cover the bottom of the pan in oil. I don't put a lot, because you're going to end up making like a roux with the leftover drippings and some flour. So you don't want to put too much, or else you're going to have to drain it out before you start your roux. So once you have your grease hot, you just season up your cube steaks with what I use is seasoned salt usually, and maybe some black pepper, but you can use whatever seasonings you want. And you just put them in the pan and let them cook. Don't flip them constantly, just flip them one time. You should only need to flip your cube steaks once. And they don't even have to be done all the way through, because once you chop them up and put them in the gravy will simmer for a while. And if there are any of the steaks that are undercooked, they'll continue cooking in the gravy. Now it's time to flip them. Like I said before, we're only flipping them one time. And when we're making gravy, we don't need to season them with, or we don't need to flour them, is what I'm trying to say. You can just cook them with the meat with seasoning, salt and pepper. You know, that's it. They don't have to be floured. So I'm on the last set of cube steaks now. And I apologize, I'm a messy cooker, as you can see down here. I've done spilt some grease. So after this, what I will do is drain the meat. I already have some that's already been draining. And then I'm going to cut it all up into little teeny tiny pieces. I tend to cut mine in smaller pieces. You can really cut it up however you want. You don't have to cut it up. You don't have to cut it up at all, really, if you don't want to. But I do cut mine up in tiny pieces. And to me, I feel like it stretches more. You know, it lasts longer. And it also makes it more tender once it sits in the gravy for a while. Okay, this part of the process, as you can see, my frying pan's already smoking. This part of the process can go pretty quickly. So I have a 1/4 cup of flour. It is self-rising flour, and I'm just sprinkling that over. And then I use a fork. I never use a whisk. I guess I'm just old school like that, because that's how I was taught to do it when I was a kid. So we're just going to quickly and continually mix in this flour. And sorry if I quit talking, it's just because I'm concentrating. Okay, and you want to let that flour cook down, or like let the flour cook out of it, because you don't want to immediately pour your water in, because then it'll just taste like flour water. So you want to kind of let that oil and that flour cook together and make up this nice brown roux. And you see all the crispies coming off the bottom of the pan. Now I already have a pre-measured cup of water already sitting. See, here's my water. It's not really measured, but so you pour it in, and as you pour it, I'm doing this with one hand, which I don't normally do. You pour it in, and you just continue letting that roux get mixed up with that water. And when you see it bubbling up on the sides, that's good. Now it's time to add a little bit more water in, and I'm going to pour the rest of this water in. And we'll wait on it to bubble up a little bit more. All right. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just taking the fork and pressing downward and basically scraping the bottom of the frying pan to loosen up all the crispy on the bottom, which is the flavor that your gravy's going to be made out of. And then I just continue doing this. And I do eyeball the water. I never measure it really. I always use this cup. There's no ounces on the bottom, so I really can't tell you how much water that is. I guess I could always measure it out. But I do wait. I let the water and the roux mix together, and I try to wait and let it see. Let's see if it's going to thicken up anymore, because sometimes I put too much water. Sometimes I don't put enough water. Usually it's because I don't put enough water, and then I can add a little bit more. Uh-oh. So I just keep stirring those Crispies off the bottom of the pan. And it is thickening up real nice. I probably will put just a tiny bit more water in. And I did turn the stove up. As you can see, it's on like medium high. Now I can go ahead and turn it down because I'm satisfied for the most part. Go. Alright, I'm going to add just a tiny bit more water in here. Okay. We'll put the rest. Okay. Bye. Okay. All right. Now, what I will do is I will let this sit for a little bit. As you can see, I don't use any kind of kitchen bouquet. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's like a browning seasoning type of thing that you put in to get the brown color. Honestly, I just let my cube steaks cook, and they get a little crispy around the edges, and it gives off that nice brown color for the gravy. So now I'll just let this sit for a little bit while I cut up my plate of cube steaks, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like all together. Oh, and before we go here, let's just take a look. The rice has been on for about 20 minutes, and as you can see, that rice is, hopefully you guys can see this, very, very fluffy. And I always dig down to the bottom. There's a little bit of water left, and that's okay, because before this gravy is done, all that water is going to be boiled out. And once the water does boil completely out, I mean, you may see a tiny skim of water on the bottom, and that's fine. You can turn the rice completely off, or you can put it on low, and you can just let it sit, and it'll continue to stay fluffy. It won't gum up because it's parboiled rice, and it's very easy. Very, very easy. Okay, so this is our final product right here. I cut up the steaks into tiny pieces, as you can see. Let's see if it'll focus. There it goes. I told you we like to do ours super small. I think that they will be more tender that way after they sit in the gravy for a little bit. And now that I took the time to chop up the cube steak, let's look at the rice. So yes, it's nice and fluffy. Over here, if we go to the bottom, it is actually perfect. There's no water. You can see there's absolutely no water in there. So I hope that I was able to help somebody some way make easy rice and easy brown gravy. Thank you for watching.